Now it's time for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning. Let's bring in Arise analyst, Dr. Constance Ikwoku. Good morning, Dr. Constance.
Good morning, Yolanda, this midweek. I hope you're doing fantastic.
Absolutely. Lovely to see you today.
Lovely to see you too. And Charles, good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Constance.
Yes.
Yes, let me echo your sentiment. Lovely to see you today.
Okay, that's wonderful. We have this morning to discuss the papers with us, Emmanuel Aziken. He is a columnist with Vanguard newspaper. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day. In this day, we have three major stories today. And Emmanuel, I will ask you to comment on the three. Very short comments. Let's start with the article above the masthead. African can be Pope, says Kaigama Francis for burial Saturday. The Archbishop of the Abuja Diocese of Nigeria, Ignatius Kaigama, says Africans have the same chance as anybody from America, Europe, other parts of the world to be Pope. Is that the case, really? Church politics here. Your take, Emmanuel?
Well, Africans, as every other cardinal, eligible for election as eligible for election to be Pope, have the same criteria. The same criteria is going to be used for every person, irrespective of regional background. So Africans are well qualified, and I want to say that the qualification. You see that the emergence of. I want to say that popes or cardinals rather. You see that the qualifications they have, like who said this is Archbishop Kaigama of the Archbishop of Abuja. And what was his qualification? He has a doctorate. His predecessor, Archbishop Cardinal Onaika, also has a doctorate. So they can hold that sway with every other person across the world. I want to say that yes, Africans have the capacity, but the issue is about the regional politics, the church politics that we have in the Vatican. Do they have the capacity to play that politics? And the possibility of an African emerging as a pope could also reverse the social trends we have seen in the church. Because of our conservative values, an African is likely to come there with his conservative ideas. And these are issues that the church as a body may frown at.
Yeah, well said. It goes beyond criteria and qualification. There's a lot of politics that goes on there. Let's see the other two stories. Ribadu would defeat Nigeria's security menace, and IMF Cardoso Edu pledge to scale up social spending, improve food security in Nigeria. These two articles relate to prevailing provocations that we deal with every single day in this country. Your thoughts, Emmanuel, again?
Well, the NSA spoke in Makurdi when he paid a courtesy call on the governor of Benue State in the light of the insurgency that has tackled the state. The NSA's comments about government's capacity to prevail over the insurgents, however, calls to question. One is beginning to ask, why has the government not been able to address this matter? Now, the governor said something remarkable yesterday. He said that these people that are attacking them, he said that they are Fulani. The Fulani they speak, they are not, the Fufu they speak rather, that it is foreign to them, that they have lived together over the years. And when governments in Abuja begins to talk about communal crisis, this brings to question the truth. This brings to question what the veracity of what the government is saying. These are external attackers, and the government should up its arms and attack these foreigners. They are not Nigerians, because he said they have been living together. The Fulani and the indigenes there, the communities, they've been living together over the past decades and centuries. But it's unfortunate that marauders from outside are coming in and dislocating the social equilibrium that the people have there. And also...
No, finish
okay.
Quickly.
You're also talking about the
IMF story.
The IMF story. And the central bank governor had a meeting with the IMF director, and they came out of that meeting with a positive outlook for Nigeria. You know, he mentioned about they mentioned that Nigeria is having a stability in its economic progression. But there were however some issues he raised. He talked about increasing social spending. He talked about inclusivity. So this brings to question, yes, whatever forecasts that are being projected, that the inclusivity, that there is not much inclusivity as concerning Nigeria's growth potential. Mark you, when he talks about inclusivity, this relates to the fact that the growth in Nigeria only has to do mostly with politicians, if I may say, political actors who are increasing. And when he talks about social spending, it brings to the fact that Nigeria's per capita spending on social, on the poor is rather below expectation.
Okay, let's move quickly to Daily Sun. 2027 Tinubu PDP governor strike deal. Sources say the deal or pact between the People's Democratic governors, some of them, especially those in their first term, is to support President Bola Tinubu's re-election without defecting to the All Progressives Congress. In turn, the president will support their re-election. It is rooted this is partly why there is a crisis in the PDP, the sources are saying. Emmanuel, let me come to you. No, not Emmanuel, Charles. This is similar to what Minister Nyesom Wike did in Rivers State in 2023 when he supported the president and publicly did so without any apologies. You know, this is not how it should be, though.
Well, unfortunately, but you see, the rift in the People's Democratic Party, which of course they caused by themselves, is to blame for what's going on now. For instance, they talked about, they did agree on the zoning formula for the presidential ticket to go to the south, and then they threw it open. Atiku Abubakar emerged, and people like Wike became disgruntled. Now that became the genesis of the rift that has persisted up till this moment. So instead of backing a candidate in his own party, Wike decided to go the other way. Well, it worked for him and for probably Sheyi Makinde, and this time around too. Since it was a formula that worked very well, the People's Democratic Party governors would want to, first of all, protect their own personal interests before looking out for any other thing else. So if it's going to guarantee them coming back for a second term, they definitely would back a candidate that they are agreed upon. And if, of course, Atiku Abubakar would be the candidate for the People's Democratic Party, then definitely the PDP governors would be backing the candidate of another party that would guarantee their return.
It's really unbelievable what's happening.
Well,
I mean,
this kind of, our own kind of democracy is probably becoming a unitary democracy.
It is.
Mr. Azikiwe.
Yes, I want to say that the PDP as it is now cannot field a candidate in a general election because the party does not have somebody that they have all agreed as the national secretary. So, you know, just last week when a local government chairman migrated from the party to the APC, Nyesom Wike said that he advised that local government chairman, because if you have to submit your form to the INEC, somebody has to sign it. It has to be the chairman and the national secretary. As it is now, the PDP does not have a national secretary.
But there is a reason why they're refusing to solve that problem, because there are people within the party fomenting trouble, you know, at the expense of the party in the interest of the APC. Which is
correct. Which goes back to what has just been said now, because the party refused to heed its zoning formula in 2023.
Okay, I don't know. Let's see New Telegraph here. GMOs pose no unique health risk. Federal government insists. Isaac Salako, Minister of State for Health, says critics are yet to provide evidence that genetically modified organisms cause cancer or other health-related issues. He argues studies over 3 decades confirm GMO foods are safe. The minister has invited anti-GMO activists to, according to him, in the spirit of openness, present contrary evidence. Yolanda, the jury is still out on GMO foods, and activists should probably take up the minister on this one. I mean, there are studies that say that research is still ongoing and it's not yet clear what are the long-term effects of some of these foods on
Absolutely.
human beings.
I think there are many aspects to this GMO topic. Science has been used for good and can be used for bad as well, especially where GMO is concerned. I know that for many countries, GMO is bad because it's not properly, just like you said, it's not properly researched. There isn't enough information on the effects, the long-term effects on people after exposure to too much GMO food. But there's another aspect that we have to look at here, and that is the economic implications. For a while now, we've had issues with food scarcity in Nigeria, and I say it very gently, but not all GMO is actually bad, because without GMO we wouldn't be able to keep certain pests out of our crops, which is crucial for having, a good season with whatever you are trying to grow. But this may also, form resistance from a lot of advocacy groups. But I think it's very important, just like you mentioned, that communication and the right public health dissemination is put out there to make people more aware, for them to be in the know of what is good GMO and what is bad GMO.
Yeah, time will not permit us, but it's a very big discussion about
Absolutely.
when you mention pesticide.
Yes.
There's also the argument against pesticides and how it affects, the quality of the food. In fact, big farming. Yes. In countries like America.
Absolutely.
And even in Europe, there is that big argument.
Yes, and they've come under fire.
Exactly, about big farming and the methods and practices and how it affects the quality of the food that we consume as human beings. We cannot talk about.
There's a lot there.
And then the other thing, Yolanda, is that perhaps we need to have our own scientists and government or even private sector sponsoring research into these things, so we do not have to rely solely on the West, for scientific research or results. Okay, let's go to leadership. Here we have North Woods, Atiku El-Rufai, others must apologize to the region, according to Obasani. Obasani is the governor of Kaduna State. He insists politicians fail the people. Opposition's criticism is all about quest for power. I mean, haven't the politicians failed all of us as a country? And we dare say too that we have failed ourselves as Nigerians by not doing the right thing. Our thoughts here.
Well, the situation in the north is probably more dire. The level of illiteracy, the level of poverty, the level of underdevelopment. Apparently, the politicians in that part of the country, according to Governor Oba, seem to be focusing more on grabbing and consolidating power instead of trickling down the dividends of democracy to the local populace. And that's why, you have insecurity. I mean, insecurity is a major critical factor in the north, and it has a multiplier effect. Populations displaced, people sinking deeper into poverty, and of course the Human Development Index, they're becoming worse by the day. So what exactly are they doing?
Yeah.
Are they tackling insecurity? Are they tackling poverty? Are they tackling illiteracy? Unfortunately, the answer is no.
Okay, on to Daily Trust. This morning, at the very bottom of that front page, we have 180 students occupy room of 20 at Kaduna College. We're talking about Queen Amina College. The famous Queen Amina of Zau Zau, a 16th century Hausa ruler that was known for her military prowess. That's the college we're talking about. So in this college, like many other institutions in Nigeria, inadequate infrastructure leading to overcrowding. Often 3 girls are forced to share a single bed, 6-inch bed, spring bed, this article says. I mean, there are things that should not be acceptable in this country, especially when it comes to government-owned schools or institutions. The reason being that we're not actually thinking of solving problems. If we are thinking of solving problems, something as basic as an elementary as dormitories, Yolanda, you can jump in here if you want. This shouldn't be a problem to solve. You know,
yes,
dormitories.
That's very true. And there are a lot of issues that come with this as well. You know, if you have that amount of girls sharing a bed in a dormitory, you have all sorts of issues that can stem from that. You can have bullying, you can have all sorts of things that come from that. And it actually reminds me very closely to the prison system in Nigeria, because overcrowding is a big issue as well.
Yeah.
And so I just shake my head at this headline because it's a very sad reality. We all know that the educational infrastructure crisis in Nigeria has always been a big thing from the primary level right up to the tertiary. So I think it's time for some changes that are more than obvious and more than overdue.
Okay, let's
Dr.
quickly,
Constance,
yes.
that problem is not an issue of being solved. That problem was even caused by the government by selling off the accommodation spaces in Queen Amina College and some other colleges. That's what that story sought to bring out. That the accommodation spaces for teachers and partly for students was sold off by the previous administration.
When did that start? I mean, I simply
by the Nasir Rufai administration.
Selling accommodation spaces in secondary school dormitories. Wow.
All right, Vanguard, let's just quickly glide through some top stories here. Vanguard here, we have Niger government imposes curfew, 11 killed in fresh Benue attack. I almost said Niger, but it's Niger within the country. Yeah, and we also have, let's see, The Guardian, let's say The Guardian. Nigeria walks a tightrope as IMF sees higher inflation, lower oil prices. Of course, we know that they've reduced our GDP growth for this next year or this year. I think it's going to be
next year.
Yeah, it's going to be 2.7% instead of 3%. They said. We also have here Plateau MBA advocates self-defense against attacks. We have The Punch this morning. Killings, IGP deploys special anti-bandit squads nationwide. Emergency rule, Fubara may shift ground after Tinubu's UK meeting. Maybe he's thinking of the campaign or supporting the president like the other PDP governors. Yeah, in order to survive. Okay, international headlines. Daily Graphic. Chief Justice suspended. President John Mahama removed her following petitions. Now a probe into her tenure will begin. We also have on that front page, there we have President Mahama with dignitaries at the ECOWAS at 50 event in Ghana. The headline says, Ghana will mediate to strengthen unity in ECOWAS. So apparently, President Mahama is positioning himself and Ghana as the bridge, an arbiter in the ECOWAS conflict. What are your thoughts on this? It's been doing quite well. Emmanuel, do you want to jump in here?
I would like to say it's a welcome relief, especially for those of us in Nigeria, given the way our own president threw off the balance in relationship between Nigeria and the Sahel states. This is a welcome intervention from Ghana, and in fact, it's going further by opening in that story, opening up 1,000 scholarships for ECOWAS students and asking qualified students, postgraduate students from across the sub-region to come in. So this is a welcome intervention. I hope it will save the face of Nigeria.
All right, Citizen newspaper. ANC doesn't care about poor. This accusation is made by the DA, the African National Congress partner in the government of national unity. And this comes as the DA says it's confident of winning the court case against ANC, the case against the budget in which VAT was increased. The economic freedom fighters, by the way, also filed applications in the court against the budget. Yolanda, this is a new one, court case against a budget. It's not looking good at all.
Well, as much as there's truth into that accusation, I think this is just political banter. You know, the opposition is just trying to make their case stronger for upcoming elections and, you know, upcoming votes from the people. But, you know, I really would hope and pray that there's a looking into in the situation situation with especially the infrastructure in South Africa. I think over the past few months we've been talking about how the schools are dilapidated, there's bad water, there's, you know, sewage lines are breaking down. Let's hope that, you know, someone is looking at the plight of the poor, and not just the poor, the everyday person.
Right. Charles, let's look at the Daily Mail. Here, Kemi, PM owes apology to many women. As Starmer finally admits trans women are not women. So Keir Starmer has now dropped his belief that transgender women are women. Tory leader Mrs. Badenoch urged the PM to apologize to MP Rosie Duffield, who was hounded out of Labour after she spoke up for female-only spaces. I mean, on this one, Badenoch seems right. An apology to Rosie Duffield, I mean, might just, it's right.
Okay,
I don't know.
so if Starmer apologizes to the former MP, what about those other women, particularly the ones in sports, who insist that trans women are not women? So how many apologies is Starmer going to issue?
One
will
cover all.
So how many other demands for apology would come in?
Well,
see, the man is just simply stating his mind, and that's being honest.
Okay.
He didn't try to be politically correct, which is very rare among politicians of that stature. So anyway, Badenoch will actually seize on anything Starmer says to attack him. If he had gone the other way, Badenoch would still have come after him.
All right, finally, The Guardian. IMF blames Trump tariff for major negative shock to world economy. And at the bottom, we have Pope Francis lying in state. He will be buried Saturday. We've run out of time, but thank you so much, Emmanuel Azikian, columnist with Vanguard newspaper, for being here today.
And thank you so much, Dr. Constance, for heading today's newspaper review. That's all we have time for here on Daybreak. I'm Charles Eruka. It's goodbye from me.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.